Annyeonghaseyo. I hope I got it right. A good friend of mine, I was planning to say Yahuseya, but a good friend of mine told me that that means hello when you're talking on the phone. So I'm not saying that, I'm gonna Thank you so much for having me here. This is my first visit to South Korea, and I'm super excited to be here. It's really, really exciting for me. And I really wish that I knew more Korean, but unfortunately, that's it. So thank you. This is working. So today we'll be talking about what is AWS CodeStar, as well as how to create an AWS CodeStar project. So let's start with what is AWS CodeStar. So as you can see, it's a cloud-based service for creating, managing, and working with software development projects on AWS. So you can quickly develop, build, and deploy applications on AWS using AWS CodeStar project. So it's basically a collection of all the different existing AWS services, and it's the glue that binds them all together. The type of services will depend on your choice of the AWS code project template. So it can consist of source control, build, deploy, test, monitor, and much more. So how does the general architecture looks like? First of all, you have your repository, where you have your configuration files, your changes, your source code, such as your AWS Lambda functions, and of course, it's going to be on GitHub. You have your AWS CodeStar, obviously, sitting in a specific AWS region. Now, what happens when a change occurs at GitHub side? It might be a change to your source code, to your AWS Lambda function. So GitHub will consume that change and send a notification message to the AWS CodeStar. AWS CodeStar will come back and grabs all the changes and files needed to create and build the infrastructure for the application that is up and running. So as you can see, the AWS CodeStar will go and check all the changes, configuration. It can create new resources, as well as delete any unneeded one. So now let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is to create an identity access management user. The reason is that the AWS CodeStar doesn't let you use the root or the console account to create an AWS CodeStar project. That's why we need to create a specific identity and access management admin user to then create the AWS CodeStar project under this user. And then we are going to have to go and check the project that we created from the CodeStar project, as well as the repository that got created automatically in github.com. And then after that, we're going to make a small code change to the GitHub repository and see how that change will get deployed automatically, to make sure that the integration between github.com and the AWS CodeStar is working properly. So let's get started. The first step, we are going to create the identity and access management user. So the first thing we'll do is we go to the AWS Identity and Access Management console. From here, we'll click on the users to get the list of all the different users. And then we'll start by adding a new user. The first thing we'll do is giving the user a new username, and then we're gonna grant him access to the AWS Management console. After that, we're gonna give him a specific custom password. As well, we're going to uncheck this box so they don't have to change the password the next time they log in. And now we are ready to go to the next page where we are going to choose all the following policies. The first one is the Amazon S3 full access. So 3, that's the first one. The second one is the AWS CodeStar full access, as well as the AWS Lambda full access. So now we are ready to create our user. It's creating the user. Whenever the user has been created, we can copy the custom console login. So this is the URL for the user that we just created. We're going to copy it to our clipboard so we can use it later on. So the next step after creating the user is to sign in as the identity access management user. So that means we need to sign out of the root or the console account and then use the URL that we copied, the custom console login, to enter the credentials of the identity and access management user. So here we go. So the first thing now, you can see that we are going to log out from the console user. And next, we are going to paste the URL that we just copied previously. And now we are ready to enter the credentials for the identity and access management user that we just created. So now that we created our identity and access management user, we are ready to create the AWS code project under this user. So here we go. The first step, we're going to go to the CodeStar dashboard. From here, we're going to start by creating a new project by clicking on the big blue button in the middle to create this project. And here we can choose the project type. So we can filter by node.js, for example, as well as any of the AWS services, AWS Lambda, for example. And whenever we got the project type that we are after, we can move to the next step. And then here we are giving our project a name. And we are asking the system to go and store our code in GitHub. Now we are ready to go and connect to GitHub. First, we have to make sure that we are providing the AWS CodeStar project access to the organization where we are going to store our code under by clicking on the Authorize AWS Code Suite button. So now it's in the background, it's connecting to GitHub. And it's coming back with the list of all the different users and organizations where we can store our code. So I will choose the one where I would like to store my code, a specific organization. And then we'll go to the next step. So here, CodeStar is showing us all the different resources that it's going to create. And now we are ready to create our project. So this will take between 15 to 20 minutes, depending on the project. But what I did here, I just sped up this section. And here we go. Our project has been created. Now let's go and explore the project that we just created. So the first thing, if you scroll down, you can see a tile containing. Here we go. So the first thing you can see is the application. I'm going to go backward a little bit. Here we go. OK, so the first one is all the different services that you can see at the left-hand side. And now this is the application that we just created. So the application that we just created, the AWS CodeStar project, this is the URL, and this is the application. This is how it looks like at the moment. Remember the color of the background, because we're going to change it a bit later. So these are at the left-hand side. At the left-hand side, you see in the middle all the commit history, and you can choose the branch for a specific branch, and that shows the first integration with GitHub. The second integration that we can see is at the bottom, where you can see all the different issues and pull requests, and you can filter them by the issue creator or pull request creator, as well as by the status, open status, for example, and the category. So this is showing the integration between CodeStar and GitHub. At the bottom of this page, you can see the link where we can go to GitHub, but instead of going to GitHub, we are going to click on the create issue and create a new issue from this tile. This is taking us to GitHub, where we are creating a new issue. And then let's explore now the GitHub project. So you can see that it created all of these different files, as well as the source and the configuration files. And the README has all the different useful information that helps you get started. Now back to CodeStar, you can see that the issue that we just created is here in CodeStar. As well as at the left-hand side, you can see all the different shortcuts to various services that you can check. You can see the code build project, as well as the build history. And here, under deploy, we have some details about the infrastructure that got created by CloudFormation. The next one under pipeline, you can see all the pipeline configuration, all the different stages, source, build, and deploy. At the left-hand side, you can see all the different settings that you can change, the project team management, extensions, and project settings. Now what we are going to do, we're going to make a small change in the code, and we're going to see how this is going to get deployed automatically using our AWS CodeStar project. So back to GitHub, I'm just going to check in these files, and then I'm going to look for a specific JavaScript file, which is setBackground.js. And let's check the code in this file. Here you can see that this is doing, it's setting the background based on the time, on the time of the day. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to comment this section, specify the class name, and I'm going to replace it by the one that will set it to 10 a.m. So we want it to be 10 a.m. all the time. So now that we made this code change, I'm going to commit my change and add a specific description of what I did, and then I'm committing straight to master, which is not a great practice, but for this demo, it's okay. Now here, you can see that we went back to CodeStar, and then from here, you can see that the first one, which is the source, has been copied. The next, the build is being done. That means the code is getting packaged up. And then at the end, now that the build has been completed, the infrastructure has been deployed. And here we go. This is done. Now, if I go back to my web application, you can see that I set the background to blue, which is because it's 10 a.m. So that was a very small change that we made to the code, but that shows us how the integration between GitHub, the code sitting on GitHub, with the AWS CodeStar. So now what? We talked about how to create a project in AWS CodeStar. I'm from GitHub, so let's talk a little bit about GitHub. When I say GitHub, the first thing that comes to your mind is the open source community, right? Which is great. That means github.com, the online cloud platform where you can write code, do some work, communicate, collaborate on your code, and do all of that. We are very happy with that, and that's really great. And we're very proud of being the house of the open source community. What not everyone knows is that we also have GitHub Enterprise, a self-hosted solution. GitHub Enterprise has the same set of great features as github.com, but it can sit on your own infrastructure, on your organization private cloud. And as we are now today at AWS event, GitHub can run on multiple platforms, such as AWS. And it can integrate with your organization authentication platforms, such as LDAP or XAML. So this is one of the products that not everyone is aware of, but it will be really great if you guys would like to give it a try. So let's talk about the GitHub features. The first one is branching. So with GitHub, you can do build, you can deploy, you can have a test environment, you can do all the great things that you can do right now on github.com. The second feature is you can protect your master branch. So people or users won't accidentally go and delete your branch or force push to it. The third one is the pull request. That's the conversation as why did you make this change? And what's the change that you made and why? So the discussion around the code change that you made. The next one is the code review process. So we have a code review process where you can request changes from people, and all of that will get recorded and audited along with those changes. Next, you can publish your application as open source. Lots of open source projects change people's lives. It's really important, and lots of developers are using lots of open source projects. And we always encourage people to collaborate and contribute to open source projects because so it's a two-way relationship, right? And of course, collaborate with all the developers on codes all the time. And we have much, much more. Lots of features that I really encourage you to go to the GitHub website and check all the different features that we have, as well as our latest release, 2.13.1, that got released by the end of March. This is now. So for more information, these are the links that I would like to share with you. The first one is github.com, as well as if you want to learn more about AWS CodeStar and AWS Lambda. Kamsahamnida. And I will be at the GitHub booth if you would like to chat or if you would like to grab some cool stickers as well. We have lots of cool stickers if you'd like to come to the booth and say hello. Kamsahamnida.